When most people think of Ultimate Play the Game's early Spectrum output, Jetpack is always the game which comes first to mind. Its frantic arcade action makes for an early benchmark for what you could achieve on a humble 16K Spectrum. It's not all about the thrills of rocket building and refueling, as Ultimate put out quite a few 16K arcade-style gems for the Spectrum, including the game we're looking at in this video, Cookie, originally released in late 1983. I will admit though, the reason I'm checking this out is simply because of the brand new C64 adaptation, which was just released. You play as Charlie the chef, a chef with a bit of an ingredients problem, as when he goes to grab ingredients from his pantry for recipes, they all spill out and go rogue, dragging with them all manner of nasties as they bounce around the kitchen. Your goal in each stage is to fire flour bombs at these ingredients to knock them down into the bowl at the bottom of the screen. At the same time, you also need to make sure you don't knock any of those nasties or the pieces of garbage launched from the surrounding bins into your mixing bowl, as this means you'll need to land more ingredients in to clear the stage. Unsurprisingly, Cookie is very much an arcade game of its time. As you move through stages, the only real variety is in the new ingredients you'll deal with. Each of them possess new movement behaviours, making for new challenges in just how you launch your flour bombs to get them into the bowl. Beyond this, the core loop doesn't change all that much, but when you consider this was off the back of the Stampers' forays into arcade machines, and running on a humble 16K Spectrum, it's pretty darn fine for 1983 standards. The kind of charm found in early Spectrum games is certainly found here, with minimal colour clash, tight controls, and generally a fun challenge. Though the difficulty curve does ramp up somewhat quickly, as was pointed out by reviewers of the time. One of the big challenges is really the size of everything. It sometimes feels that the sprites may be just a bit too large at times, though I will add the hitboxes employed by them do balance it out a bit. But that's enough of the Spectrum version. Let's talk about this C64 conversion. One of the biggest surprises is that it's first released by Andy Noble, a name you're probably familiar with if you've ever heard of Retrospect, a group who did a lot of PC and other modern system takes on 8-bit classics quite a few years ago. It's amazing to see someone with plenty of experience coding remakes coming back and producing one for a classic computer platform. And in short, I think it pays off. This is generally a very well produced conversion, with a graphic style greatly modernising it, but feeling appropriate to what was done originally. Along with that, the new music composed by Paul Tankard, returning to the 64 after all this time, easily fits into that early 80s arcade vibe. Admittedly, I had not played Cookie much prior to checking this C64 version out, and I certainly found myself having quite a bit of fun with it, except for one major difference over the Spectrum version, and that is the difficulty curve. Here, I struggled to get off that first stage in my first few plays of the game. In fact, even with a fair chunk of practice under my belt, I still find that I'm going to lose 1 or 2 lives just in the process of clearing this stage. On the Spectrum version, however, this was not the case at all. I found there, I was able to breeze through the first stage pretty easily, once I had a few plays under my belt in order to get familiar with how it played. In fact, I feel this difficulty difference is in part due to how the C64 version is using hardware sprite collisions, dramatically altering the feel. I had cases where on the C64 version, I'd lose a life, but when replaying the game in a similar way on the Spectrum, it resulted in me being unscathed. Do I feel the C64 take on Cookie is worth a look? For sure. It's a lovely take on a lesser regarded Spectrum game, and providing the difficulty curve is not a turn-off, you'll find it a challenging yet fun experience to dig up and play every so often. But that difficulty factor is the deciding point though. It's worth mentioning though. What I'm playing here is the first public release, version 0.94, and I'm hoping that there may be an update in the future which tweaks the difficulty curve to be a little closer to Spectrum 1. So if it's there, do check the description in case I've posted a new version link. As for the Spectrum original, yeah, I think I have to give it the nod as well. I know it's not the most regarded of Ultimate's early 16K games, but there is a simple charm here which makes it well worth checking out in my book, even if it's not really going to be a title that you're going to spend a significant amount of time with. And with that, thank you very much for watching this quick little review. I wanted to do something a little different in checking out Cookie. It's a fairly simple game in comparison, so I thought this was a nice way to show it off. And as always, new videos are out on Fridays, so do hit the subscribe button, along with turning on the notifications so you don't miss them as I publish them. It always helps get eyes on them than rely on other forms of social media. And finally, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How are your experiences with the 64 version of Cookie? Are they similar to what I had? What do you think about the original Spectrum one? Which one would you go back to in future? Do let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.